The ancient kings of Egypt were called pharaohs. So guys, keep that in mind. The ancient kings of Egypt were called pharaohs. And with the pharaohs in Egypt, they took in Jewish people as slaves. We call the Jewish people Israelites just for respect purposes. We're not going to call them slaves. We're going to call them Israelites. So the Israelites settled into Egypt and became, they settled for cheap labor. They were being overworked and underpaid. And they were building all the buildings, pyramids, everything in Egypt. And they were being treated bad. And Pharaoh was the king. He was very luxurious. He had a big house, nice horses, jewelry, everything. And one day he was sleeping. He had a dream. He had a dream that one of the Israelites was going to take over his palace and his kingdom and overrule all of Egypt. So he made a harsh decision to kill every single Jewish baby that was born. He made a decision to kill every single Jewish baby that was born. And they were killing babies left and right. They were killing babies here and there. And then Pharaoh's economic advisor, the person that handles with his money, came to him one day and said, if you keep killing all the Jews, who is going to do the hard labor? Who is going to build our monuments? Who is going to do the work? So Pharaoh thought about it and he said, you're right, let's kill the Jews every other year. So Harun is Moses' brother. He was born first. When Harun was born, they weren't killing the Jews. And then after Harun was born, Moses was born the next year. And it was the time to kill all the Jews. So this was really sad. And Moses' mother was very worried. She didn't know what to do because they were going to kill her baby. And Allah gave her a command to put Moses in a basket and ship him down the Nile River. But before she could do this, she was very worried. She didn't know how everything was going to go. So she sent her daughter with the basket to just oversee the basket to see how everything would go. And once Moses' mother put Moses in a basket, put Moses in the river down the Nile, Moses' sister was observing the basket. And then all of a sudden, the basket flows all the way to the palace of Pharaoh. Pharaoh's the king. You guys remember that. So Pharaoh's wife name was Asiya. And it shows you that you can have a cruel, mean husband and still follow the path of Allah. Everything is a test. So Asiya said she couldn't have babies. For whatever reason, she couldn't have babies. And this was her opportunity. She saw the baby. She automatically fell in love. When she saw the baby, she picked up Moses and brought her to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And once the king of Egypt saw Pharaoh, Pharaoh was very mean, So he didn't just take everything, but his heart softened when he saw the baby. And Asiya told him, "Can we please keep this baby?" He couldn't deny it. So Moses grew up in the palace. It was luxurious. Imagine having all the games you want, the candy you want, the toys you want, everything, the clothes you want, the shoes you want. He had everything growing up. And then one day came Moses. He couldn't eat or drink, and they were trying to feed him the milk, and he wasn't drinking at all. And then you remember Moses' sister was watching the basket and watching Moses, and one of the guards saw Moses' sister and said, "What are you doing here?" And then Moses' sister said, "I know who can feed Moses. I know who can feed that baby." She didn't say Moses. "I know who can feed that baby," because she was trying to be discreet. And once she said that, she told them they can go to the lady's house, because Moses' mother, Allah commanded Moses' mother not to leave the house. He commanded her not to leave the house, not to live in the palace. So they went over to Moses' mother's house, and Moses' mother was the only person that can feed Moses. So the beauty of it is Moses mother was blessed because her son grew up in a palace and she got to see him every day, and on top of that she was getting paid. So she was getting paid to feed her own child. Can you imagine? Being a stay-at-home mom is really hard nowadays, but she got that luxury, and she stayed in her house. So every day the Pharaoh and his people would carry Moses all the way to Moses' mother's house, and Moses would see his mother. And as Moses got older, he got really strong. He was big. He got really strong, and he didn't like violence. He didn't like people that tortured other people. One day he saw the guards, the soldiers of Egypt, torturing an Israelite, and Moses said to the guards, "Stop this. This is not right. You can't do this." And they ended up getting in a scruffle, and Moses pushed the guard and accidentally killed him. He killed him on accident. He regretted this so much because he was not a man of violence. And once he killed a man, someone came to him and told him, "Moses, they're going to come after you." Moses didn't care about the palace at that point. He didn't care about his toys. He didn't care about anything. He just got up and left. He didn't pack no bags, anything. And when he left the city of Egypt, he was walking in the desert. Under his feet started cracking. His feet started bleeding and everything. And he saw these two women with sheep, and they were called shepherds. Basically, the women wanted to give their sheep water so that their sheep can live and keep producing milk. But the women saw a lot of guys arguing over the water dam, and she couldn't get water for her sheep. So Moses just stood by the women and said, "No, don't worry. We're gonna get you water. I'm gonna help you get water." And then the men were so mean. They were fighting. They all got water. And mind you, Moses was thirsty at this point. He didn't drink water. He was walking in the desert for miles and miles, and his feet was bleeding. But after the men got water, they were so mean. They took a big rock, a big boulder, and put it over the water well. And once Moses went there, he obviously saw that the women couldn't carry this rock, couldn't take this rock off the water dam. And so Moses picked the rock up with one hand and threw it off the dam, and then gave all the sheep water, and he forgot to drink water himself. And the women were so thankful for this. They said, why don't you come with me? And Moses followed the women to protect them for the sake of Allah. And once he followed the women, he got to the point and he met the woman's father. And the father said that the father said to Moses if he can work for him for 8 years, and then he'll marry one of his daughters off, because Moses didn't have a place to stay. And long story short, Moses went back to Egypt with his wife.
See, Brother Usman, great story. We're gonna leave all the listener in suspense.
Okay.
Before Moses go back to Egypt, that's where the next story gonna start. So we're gonna stop here. We're gonna go back to Surah Fatih. Khadija started about the first part of Surah Fatih. What is Surah Fatih? What it means is the opening. All the listener right here, I want you to remember the story of Moses. He did the introduction. Moses left. He was born. He stayed in the palace. He grew up there, and he didn't like other people torturing other people. So there was one incident that made him run away. He left, and he met this family. So the man asked him to stay there for 8 years, and then he stayed there. And there was a time that he was gonna go back to Egypt. So we're gonna stop right there, and we're gonna continue. So because I know a lot of people will stay for the end of this.
Yeah.
I want to hear more. All right. So I'm gonna go back to. We have Khadija. I'm gonna go back to. Khadija say the first part. Second, we're gonna go to Diana. Diana, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. So so the next ayah is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Hold on, Diana. I'm trying to locate you. So I think. Look at, I see the vice president. I see Mommy and Daddy. I see Miss Fatima Kamara. They all want to hear the rest of the story. Everybody's listening. Oh, wow. Thank you, Diana. Go ahead.
Okay, so the next ayah of Surah Fatiha is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, which means the praise belongs to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds, which means all praises belong to Allah. He is the Rabb, or the Lord of all the worlds. Rabb is the one who not only creates us, but also feeds us, takes care of us, protects us, preserves us, maintains us, and controls us. He does many other things for us so that we can survive in this world. He is not only our Rabb, but He is the Rabb of the entire universe. Whatever He does to us, He does to the universe. So this ayah shows like the importance and the greatness of Allah, and that Allah is the God of every single person in this whole world. So you need to remember that Allah is really powerful, and He can do whatever He wants to any of us. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Diana. Alhamdulillah. Thanks for sharing this wonderful passage of the Surah Al-Fatiha. Al-Fatiha is called the opening surah. It's the first surah that we say in every prayer. When we say Allahu Akbar, we get to say Al-Fatiha. By the end of this presentation, I'm going to ask everybody, I'm going to tell you how many times in the day we say the Surah Al-Fatiha. It's amazing. So I'm going to go to the next host. Israel.
Hi, guys.
Yes, hello, Miss Israel. I can see Fanta and Rokia. They are being so patient. I don't want to hold them. All right, alhamdulillah. Yes, Israel.
Assalamualaikum, everyone. We're talking about Surah Fatiha, of course. Pretty much Surah Fatiha, it like goes over a lot of the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and like it really portrays like His power and His greatness. So we're gonna move on to the next ayah of Surah Fatiha. Diana before me, she covered Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So the next part of it I have is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So as we know, when Khadija was talking about like Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, she briefly went over the words or the names Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So these words usually come together often, like they're usually like paired up together when they're mentioned in the Quran, and they kind of play off of each other. They both actually come from the root words, well, like root letters R, H, and M, because you know it's like Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. So they come from the same root word, which that root word means to have like mercy. It means like mercy, and we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. But Rahman doesn't necessarily mean the most merciful. It actually means the most gracious, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the most gracious to all creatures and all beings in this earth that He created. And then so that's Ar-Rahman, and then we have Ar-Rahim, which means merciful. So Rahim is the part that means merciful. Ar-Rahman talks about how gracious Allah is to His beings and His creations and all of that. And then the next part, hold on, it's loading.
Thank you, alhamdulillah.
Oh, I'm not done.
Are you done?
Yeah, no, because
the next one, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, okay, it's just loading. Okay, so we have it's not done loading, but I'll just say it from my memory. So we have Maliki Yawmiddin. So that one talks about like how Allah is like He's the the one over the day, like the last day of judgment, Maliki Yawmiddin. Like he's the one who has the power over the last day. Like we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's the one who tells the angels to blow the horn when it's time and all of that. So he's the one who has control over the last day, and like everything, like in the blink of an eye, like with the snap of our fingers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make anything happen. He can make the day of judgment come when he wants it to come. So that's why he's like one all powerful over the last day. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. That's my part, right? Okay, yeah. So after Lord of like the last day, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, like to him alone we worship, and like he's the only one deserving of worship. So we know that we don't associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We worship him alone, and we rely on him alone. We put our trust in him, we put our faith in him, because that's like how he has the power to give us everything we have. He also has the power to take it away. So when we say like to him alone he deserves worship, we don't associate any partners with him. We don't commit shirk. We don't worship idols. We don't worship animals. All that stuff he created. So why would we worship his creation when we're supposed to worship him? We don't put anybody on the same level as him. So once we establish that we worship Allah alone, then we like understand that we put our trust in him, our faith in him, our belief in him. So in times of need, or in times where things are just fine, we turn to Allah for everything, and we rely on him for everything, because he's the one, he created this world, he gave us everything we have in this world. So obviously we can't, like nobody, no creation, not anything is as powerful as him. So when we need something, or even when we just want to thank him for something, we always turn to him, because just like how he was able to bless us with everything, he can take away anything. He has the power to do anything in this world.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sister Hisra. And any questions so far? I'm going to go to Sister Amira.
Okay. So
Amira, you're going to talk about the last.
So the next ayah after the ayahs that Isra just went through is Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, and that means guide us to the straight path. And you know, Surah Fatiha is also like a dua. So when you say this ayah, you're asking Allah to guide you to a straight path, which is like a path that leads to Him. And it's a path of righteousness, good faith, and of good deeds. And it's a path that our previous prophets, you know, were on. And then the next ayah is صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. And that ayah means the path of those whom you have bestowed favor, not of those who earned your anger or of those who went astray. And this ayah is a way of us asking Allah to guide us to the same path of those who came before us, who are like righteous leaders, prophets, and of those who He blessed with like blessings and favors, not of those who disobeyed Him and neglected the religion. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. As you've heard, these wonderful hosts, friends, sisters, and brothers, their parents encouraged them, and then it's also that they have chosen to be here today, or no one forced them. They chose to be the host to lead this conference. Thank you so much for introducing us and taking us through the surah, the first surah in the Quran, which is Surah Al-Fatiha, meaning the opening. And I'm going to ask, is that Israel or to read the whole Surah Al-Fatiha for us? Yes. MashaAllah. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
no. You wanted Amira to recite it or me to recite it?
Yes, Amira. Who recited last week?
Amira.
Oh, Amira. Okay. Hold on. And then Usman also did the introduction for us before we start. He read the Surah Al-Fatiha for us. Okay, let me go back to Amira.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
Amen. Thank you so much, Sister Amira. Thank you. All right. And we're going to go back a little bit to tell you. I'm going to go ahead again before I share my screen. Just wait a minute and see how this is going to go, because I don't want to start again and it doesn't work. But let me try. I'm going to show you quick videos. Let's see if you can hear, if you can hear the song this time. Can you hear it? Can you hear it this time? No. All right. Okay. I think we're gonna make it fun. All right. I'm just gonna stop sharing this. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back to Khadija.
Yes.
We have Mori Dumbuya. How are you? All I didn't introduce Mori. Assalamu alaikum, Mori. Right. I know the story is waiting for us, Khadija. I'm gonna go back to Usman. How many people want to hear Usman's the rest of the story? He's gonna take us to where Moses returned to Egypt. All right, Usman.
Okay.
Brother Usman, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
All right. So
please take us where Moses returned to Egypt. Yes.
Okay. So after Moses served his 8 years, Tati, can you mute everybody?
Yes, let me do that. Hold on. Yes, everybody's muted.
Okay. So after
now you have to unmute your mic. Hold on, let me unmute you. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So after Moses served his 8 years, because
come near the microphone, Usman, so
okay.
you can be.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So after Moses served his 8 years to work for his wife's father, because that was the agreement. He had to work for 8 years for him because he was very old, and as you can see, he was sending his daughters to go fetch water for the sheep. He served his 8 years in a good, honorable way, and during those 8 years, he married his wife. And when he was around 40 years old, he had a dream to go back to Egypt, and he really wanted to. He was feeling homesick. He really wanted to go back home, so he took his wife and a donkey and a few sheep, and they started walking back to Egypt. But mind you, he don't know where he's going. He's walking through the desert, and he walks, and then they saw Mount Sinai, and he walked up the mountain. And as he was walking up the mountain, he saw a fire. He saw a blazing fire, and from the fire, Moses was the only prophet that spoke to Allah directly. Usually, when Allah speaks to his prophets, he speaks through him via angel Gabriel. So Allah commanded Moses to go back to the city of Egypt and tell Pharaoh that he's not God and they're practicing shirk, which means worshiping other entities, and lead the Israelites back to the promised land, which is Palestine. And once Moses got this message, he was so shocked. And just to have that conversation with Allah was so beautiful. So Allah asked Moses, "What is that in your hand?" He had a cane in his hand. Moses, just like if you're talking to your biggest celebrity or anything, Moses was like, he was so happy to talk to Allah, just to engage in conversation. He said, "Oh, this is my stick. I use it to lean on, to walk, to get fruit from the tree, and to lead my animals in a right pattern." And Allah told him to throw his stick. Moses threw his stick, and it became a snake. And once his stick became a snake, Moses was really scared, and Moses started running. And Allah told him to calm down. This stick is yours, and you will need it when you're going to convince Pharaoh to lead to the right path. And Moses took the stick. After he took the stick back, he was on his mission. He started walking. To Egypt, and Allah gave him like clear guidance. And as he was approaching Egypt, his brother Harun got a message from Allah to meet Moses before he entered Egypt. And when Moses and Harun seen each other after years, Harun, they were really happy to see each other. And once they got to the city, Moses went straight to the Pharaoh's palace. And when he got to the Pharaoh's palace, he told Pharaoh the truth. He said, you are not Allah, and in order to get to Jannah, you have to worship the one and only God. And Pharaoh was so arrogant. He was so cocky, mean. Pharaoh was the king of Egypt. He was so angry and mean. And he said to Moses, how is your God the one and only God when I'm God? When he said that, he didn't believe Moses at all. He believed he was God because he was ruling Egypt. And the king, Pharaoh, he said, let's have a competition to prove who's God. And while they was having their competition, Moses was by himself with Harun. And the Pharaoh, he told all the magicians in the town, and believe me, magic is just to deceive the eye. It's not real. So all the magicians lined up in the competition, and it was Pharaoh and Harun. The Pharaoh asked Moses if he wanted to go first, and Moses said, "No, your magicians can go first." So the magicians threw their sticks. They all had sticks. They threw their sticks, and their sticks turned into snakes. And this was very intimidating. And Moses, in the back of his mind, he was like, okay, I can do the same thing. So it was Moses' turn. He threw his stick. It became a bigger snake. And Moses' snake ate all of the magician snakes. So the people in the town saw that Moses had created life. By this, I mean, he didn't physically create life, but his snake ate the magician snakes. And once this happened, the people in the town started like congregating around Moses. His popularity grew in the town, and Pharaoh could obviously see his ability, and Pharaoh wanted to use him. He wanted to use him because he seen Moses had miracles, and all Moses wanted to do was free the slaves that were being overworked and underpaid. And Moses said, I'll do any command you want me to do as long as you free the slaves. So Pharaoh kept using them. This is just one example, but there was a drought. There was no rain. The rivers dried up. The plants died off. And Pharaoh and his people of Egypt, everybody was suffering. They wanted Moses to ask Allah for rain so that the plants can start growing again. The rivers can start flowing so they can get water. And Moses did this act he asked Allah for rain. Rain came down on Egypt, and despite Moses asking Allah for rain, Pharaoh didn't receive Moses' command. Moses asked Pharaoh to release the slaves after he asked Allah for rain. But Pharaoh was, again, mean and arrogant. He just disregarded the deal, and he was unfair with the deal. So one night came, Moses got fed up, and he went to all the slaves in the town and freed them. And they snuck out. And then they was walking away. They was running away. And then they got to a big ocean. The ocean was huge. And the Israelites were the slaves. They started panicking. They started saying, "Oh, back home we had food, we had water, we had jobs, we had all types of things. But now you brought us here in front of the ocean, and we're gonna get killed by Pharaoh and his men." Pharaoh and his men was behind Moses and Harun, and they were on horses, and they had swords and knives and everything. And Allah commanded Moses to take that same stick and throw it in the ocean. Once Moses threw the stick in the ocean divided. Allah could have done this by himself, but he wanted Moses to do it. And this is a big lesson for us, because in Islam, we're supposed to take the initiative. Once we take the action, Allah will meet us halfway and bless us. But if we don't take no action, like if we don't take action with Salah, Allah's not going to bless us. So Moses took the action by throwing the stick into the water. The ocean split up. And then Moses was walking through the ocean. All of the slaves and the Israelites were walking with Moses. They got across fine. And then Pharaoh lied to his people, his army. He said, "You see, I'm God. I made the ocean split up." And even though Pharaoh lied about that, his people would soon realize that this was a big lie and a big deception. And as Pharaoh and his men was walking through the ocean collapsed on them and they drowned. So, Tanti, do you want me to keep going, or how do you?
So, thank you so much, Usman. As you heard, he said the great story of Moses. Moses is one of the prophets, and Moses was sent to the Jewish population. It happened in Egypt many years ago. So thank you so much, Brother Usman, for taking us through Moses. Remember, Moses went back to Egypt, and before on the way back to Egypt, he was able to hear Allah's name, and Allah talked to him. Allah commanded him and gave him a power and tell him not to be afraid. He can go and defeat Pharaoh. So he got there, and mashallah, inshallah, by the will of Allah, he was able to succeed and free the people of Egypt. And then the walk at night, and then to find the river, biggest river in town. And by Allah's power, the river was able to split, and then Moses walked there freely with the people. And it is so fascinating. We have young kids among us today. We hear about magician, and we go to a magician show, but that one was a big thing, right? And Moses, we can say that Allah's power win over every other power. Magician, and if you know anything, but Moses was able to win, mashallah, by Allah's will. Thank you so much, brothers Usman. Before we keep going, everybody please say thank you to Brother Usman. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for this wonderful story.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much.